Hello and welcome back to the channel to one of my interview series. And I'm very excited because I'm going to be speaking to a man who's just not very happy about what's been laid out for our future. Now, that could, of course, be any one of my lovely viewers, because it seems to me many of us are not so happy about what's being thrust down of us, which none of us have voted for, none of us have asked. Things like 15-minute cities and digital IDs and central bank digital currencies. So who am I talking to? I'm talking to David Fleming from notourfuture.org. David, welcome to the show. Nice to have you with us.
Yeah. Thanks, Richard. Thanks for having me.
Now, I know you said to me, I'm not a natural public speaker and all of that. You've set up your Not Our Future, which we're going to find out what that is in a second. So don't worry. All my audience, they're all nice people. They're going to be perfectly happy with however you come across. So fear not. So Not Our Future. Now, let me explain. One of my viewers sent me an email, as many of them do, with a link, and I thought, well, this sounds interesting. Not Our Future. I had a look at it, went to a web page, and there was Right Said Fred on a video saying we're not very happy with what's been planned for us. And I thought, well, that rings true with me. And then there was another page with all sorts of people who were respected members of society, including good old Neil Oliver. And I thought, this pledge sounds interesting. So I wanted to find out more about it, and here we are. And I did actually sign up because I totally agree with what you're trying to do. I think we are being ramrodded into stuff that we don't want, and I'm curious what we can do about it. So welcome, David. So tell us, what is Not Our Future? What's it all about?
The thing is, when I was explaining it to all these people who you just said, are founder signatories, some people think it's so sort of wide ranging that it's difficult to get the message across to people, because some people laughed because I said, I wanted to focus on everything, and they joked about the fact that focusing on everything is contradiction. But I literally want people to think about what's actually going on, not just like, looking at one thing then the other, because the whole point is to get the idea across to the average person that we're sort of under attack on lots of fronts. So it's not just cost of living or COVID or net zero. There's so much more. It's everything. It's quite difficult to get that across to people, so that they don't realize that it's the whole future is being sort of decided for them by default. That if they don't think about what the future could be like, then it's going to be a bad future for them. I've basically it's we want. Sorry, Richard. It's actually quite distracting not seeing you.
Oh, sorry. I'll leave the camera
Yeah,
like this. I mean,
yeah.
but
I
most
know
people.
I fumbled there because I was just looking at myself. Usually, I look at the people's eyes that I'm
Yeah, no,
talking.
I
Yeah.
absolutely.
Um,
Most people don't
but
think about their future, do they? I mean, they sort of have a personal future, like I want to be I want to learn to fly an aeroplane, or I want to be the head of this company, or I want to do this. But they don't necessarily think about a wider aspect of our future, such as what the government might be implementing for us. That they assume that the government is there to give us is to be benevolent and actually give us the things that we want, what we consent to. But that's, as we've seen with all these different things coming down, they don't seem to be very consensual to our wishes. They seem to have their own agenda, which is not it's not what I voted for.
well, it's like whenever, like, we're roughly the same age, I suppose. All the time we've grown up, we've seen the same TV shows, films, books, everything, and news reports like Tomorrow's World. It's always been the same future they've been mapping out for us. It's always that future of high technology, always a race towards the best technology possible. Total surveillance, dystopian worlds. I do this challenge to everybody, every podcast I go on, and everyone I speak to. Can you think of a futuristic film or book or something where it was the future, like 100, 200, 300 years time? There was lots of technology, but it was a really nice place to live. It was
Mm.
like a lovely place. Can you think of one? Because nobody has mentioned it to me. No, nobody has thought of it. So it's like that's the future that's been sold to us for like 40, 50, 60 years. And you might trace it back to technocracy or whatever. But it's basically that's the future that is mapped out for us. And so now that people are actually literally building that future, like the WEF or Klaus Schwab or whoever, this future that's been lined up, you know, smart cities, total, brain
Mm.
chips. They sit there on stage literally talking about brain chips, and we'll all have them and stuff. I mean, so when the average person hears this on the news or something, or like a panorama or whatever, they just think, oh yeah, that's the future. We know that because that's what's happening.
As in a future well beyond my lifestyle,
Yeah,
or my life. In my kids or my grandchildren, not my immediate future. Is that what
yeah,
you mean?
yeah, but it's inevitable.
Mm.
You can't stop progress and stuff. Whereas it's basically it doesn't have to be like that. But like you were saying, yeah, people have that they plan for the children's university or whatever. They save money, they buy their house. They've got that future that in their like 25-year target and whatever. That's
Yeah.
their future. The other future is the thing that's going to happen that they've seen on telly. Um, and meanwhile, the powers that be are busy building that dystopian future for us, because it's a future where they can control us, and so that's it. It's all just going along nicely, and that's what the people don't really care. They're going to accept it, but if so, the idea with not our future is that we just want people to stop for a second and think, hang on, this future that's going to happen, is that the one we want? I mean, if you
Yeah.
sit down and think about it, it isn't very nice, is it? It's like,
Do you want to live in Blade Runner?
well,
Things like that.
basically, because if you look at all the metrics, I mean, our health's going down the tubes. I mean, life expectancy went up for like 70, 100 years or whatever, and it was nice, and then it's all starting to go down again now. I mean, and the chronic illness in every age group, so that's how is that going to be a good future? What's
Mm.
stopping that? It's only getting worse. I mean, they're trying to get us to eat worse food now. They're trying to get us to. I mean, if you've seen those charts where they're talking about advisable foods, like get rid of eggs and have Oreos instead, that kind of thing. It's like ridiculous. Like
Yes.
these Cocoa Pops are better for you than chicken, that kind of thing. Don't quote me on those
I have
exactly,
to
but
say I have not seen that. I mean
yeah,
that
no,
is just that is ludicrous. That what
yeah,
you're, in other words, processed food, crap, sugar infested processed food with goodness knows what other chemicals are better than basic raw food that we've had for hundreds of thousands of years.
yeah, yeah. And so is that a good future? So basically, we want to just get people to think, because
Yes.
I mean, it's all about attention. So if your attention isn't on a good future and it's on the bad future, then you're going to wander towards the bad future because it's there. It's an easy path. You just
Mm.
wander along. So we just want to get people's attention away from the bad future and basically, or no, first of all, we actually want people to have their attention on it for a while, to recognize it, and then say, no, we don't want that, and then to think about what alternatives there are. And
Yes.
like, we're not laying out the alternatives because we don't want to be accused of being fascists, saying we don't want that, but we're going to make you do this,
Yeah, we're going to make. Here's an alternative that
But yeah,
we've designed. Yeah.
but basically the future is unknown.
Mm.
Like, again, I don't like to talk too much about WEF or Klaus Schwab because they're not actually the people. But I'll talk about that in a minute. But they talk about the future like it's definitely happening.
Yes.
This, that,
Yes.
and the other. It's definitely happening. Where the future isn't like that. The future is unknown. We don't know what's happening. We can come up with ideas of what we'd like to happen and then set up plans and work together to make it happen in a nice way. So we don't know what's going to happen in the future, but that's all right. That's normal. That's human, isn't it?
Yes.
Not
Um,
know. So
so
we
what?
want. So
Yeah.
that's what we want to do.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that one of the things is life. You can just sort of go along in your life and you just sort of follow what is the norm, which may be actually not real. That may be what government are sort of guiding you into. And you said there that you want people to actually just have a look at what they're guiding you at, so they can make, so you go, oh, actually, is this the future I really want?
Hmm.
And then start thinking about what actually they really want. Have I understood what you're saying there?
Yeah, yeah. And then, I mean, obviously, you know, we give suggestions of what
Mm.
might be better, but I think everybody knows, like, you know, better food, all the good stuff, the better
Yeah,
health, better
yeah.
education, freedom of choice, freedom of expression, all these things, just normal things that.
Do you think people already think that? I mean, when you talk about good food or healthy food, if I talk to people, they think, yeah, I know all that, but they'll still go and get a takeaway or a pizza or processed something or other, and they don't actually get the raw ingredients and or organic food, and they'll just say something like, well, it's all too expensive, I'll have it once in a while, but we're going down to the so and so we'll just get a takeaway whilst we're there, with no knowledge whatsoever what's in that takeaway and how it's cooked or where the food has been sourced or anything like that.
Yeah,
So
I know, but that's part of the problem, isn't it? That's part of the whole, system that's in place. I mean, because it's more expensive, because it's more convenient and easier, and it's the thing that you do, So, I mean, without laying down, laws ourselves, but it'd be nice to think that in 20, 30 years' time, people would be less inclined to do that. It wouldn't be as inconvenient to have nice food, all that sort of stuff. So that could happen organically over the next, but yeah, it might take a generation or even two
yes,
generations,
so
But
you've
it's
got to
still the.
pull back, haven't you? You've got to, because one of the things I've been talking about is when things are convenient, it's like water. Water takes the route of least resistance. And people are very much similar. If you don't have to get up to change the channel on your television and you've got a box in your hand, you can change the channel very easily. You don't have to get up and, like we used to have to do. And if you can, all those things, like with the box or the little cylinder in the room that will play music from a library that you don't own, but you're paying for it on a streaming service, but you just talk to it. That's very convenient, but everything's very convenient. But I always think, well, who is it really convenient for?
Yeah, yeah. Have you seen that Bob Moran cartoon where the guy is going through life going, oh, this is convenient, this is convenient. Then eventually he's in a cell with his food coming through a hatch and he's saying, oh, this is convenient.
Yes, it's all very convenient. I don't have to go to work,
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, absolutely. So
But
yeah,
I mean, it's a bit like that, yeah. So we just need to first of all get people to think about it. Now, I had a lot of when I was launching Not Our Future, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, the word not is a negative phrase, a negative word. It's you're starting from a negative standpoint." But there's a few things on that. Like first of all, if you go back, do a search for like positive ways to describe the future, it's always like politicians. It's like nearly every political party, every campaign they do is always talking about a better future.
yes,
Like a better future for your children,
that never
change for a
comes.
better future. So people just get blind to the word future and good future and better future.
But good news. The other thing is that every time you have good news, nobody's interested. People are naturally. I think it's an innate thing. Danger. You're always slightly aware of danger. If the lion is coming, running towards you, you want to
Mm.
know about that. Whereas if well, we've got food all over here. It's all great. It's okay. Yeah, I'll come when I'm ready. But you're going to get out of danger. So I think sometimes a negative thing is something people pay attention to more.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. So the word "not," I think, attracts people attention. They go, "Oh, what do you mean not our future?"
Yeah.
And that gets them thinking, and from there they go on that potential journey towards a better future. Like just changing the way they think, a little bit. It doesn't take much. You just have to like a little snap, and next second you're thinking, "Oh yeah, we don't have to have that." Brain chips in our head and eating bugs. We can do whatever we want. Um, so I mean, so that's basically the general idea. It's about attention, getting attention, you know, off the bad stuff and onto the good stuff.
And putting ideas forward that aren't dictated not dictatorial ideas, but just giving people something to think about. That's what you're
Yeah,
saying? Yeah.
and once you've changed your frame of mind a little bit, then you start to spot things like alternative ways to do things, or somebody else is doing something. Like for instance, Tess Laurie, who is one of our signatories, she's trying to set up like alternative NHS type systems where, I mean, in the old days, health services used to be like a local hospital, like set up by maybe initially founded by a wealthy benefactor locally and then sustained with local contributions and charities. and it would work. It'd be a hospital and be working. Whereas now we've got the massive NHS, which who knows where it's going, but it's not working very well at the moment.
No.
Um,
And
but
trust in the NHS at the moment, with the situation we've had, is sort of pretty low down now, I would
yeah, yeah.
suggest.
But so the idea would be to so you get people's attention off the bad stuff and get them thinking about the potential for better. But then if you can also show them things that work, alternatives that work, then it will make it easier for them to think that way, that it is the future, rather than, because obviously if you try to change somebody's mind about the future, they'll go, oh, but that won't happen, that'll never happen. But if you show them that it's happening, so if we've got like alternative systems, like it's another group that I'm in contact with who are setting up local banks, like in the old-fashioned way, like literally they set up a bank for the local people and they just give loans to local business people or people, like the way old building societies worked. It was literally people in the
Right.
local area helping each other to build a house, literally. Whereas now they're all,
Like the there's a film, isn't there, The Bank of Dave, that sort of
yeah, I haven't seen that yet, but yeah, yeah. So
a bank for local people to help people
yeah,
set up businesses to get without the enormity of the great banking world sort of making those decisions, because it's much more locally based.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And so if we have all these alternative systems in place, like just starting, the green shoots of them, and we can show people that this works.
Yeah.
This guy did get a loan for his new business and it worked. It's actually working. These people are running a hospital and patients are giving thumbs up. They think it's great. That kind of thing, and then makes it easier to transition people over. So maybe, I mean, there's various ways you could change the future by getting rid of all the politicians today and getting politicians on side and going forward from there. Or you could change it slowly by setting up alternative systems, getting people to use them, and then the old systems can sort of like fall off and just
Yeah. So
die.
as people move to the new systems, and in a way, it is. I mean, it is. It's funny because we sort of progress to this one system of more centralized stuff, but actually, it would be a step, in a way, a step backwards, but actually much more wholesome, because it's more locally based and smaller and more personal, because we've
Yeah,
become so we've become a number all the time, with utility bills and everything. You're just a number, and they've got so many customers that don't care about you. But if you're dealing with small businesses, they very much care about you. You're an integral part of them surviving, and that
yeah,
seems
yeah.
to me, and you feel more human again, and valued, and you're not just a number in a system who don't care about you anymore.
Yeah, and I mean that's where like communities come from as well, isn't it? So,
Yeah.
but although we don't want to stray into 15-minute city territory by saying, because all the nice local stuff. Oh, then you don't need to leave, do you? No, so we won't go there, but
No,
but
no.
yeah, but yeah. So that's the idea basically, to get people thinking, and then see how we actually move towards it. But we do need to start setting up parallel systems straight away, which people are doing already, and then look at the longer term. What do we do about actual who's running us? So, but once people are thinking about this stuff, then it makes it easier to convert, change their minds about maybe how they traditionally vote or something. But
Yeah.
well, we'll see how that pans out. But the first thing is the getting people to just focus on, first of all, the bad one, and then say no, reject that, go for the good one.
Yeah.
But so I mean, just going back to where it all started, because my I was against all net zero and stuff back in like 2018, 19, because I'd been interested in the climate stuff for 10 years before that, buying all the books, and but when Extinction Rebellion and Greta Thunberg and the Green New Deal, when all that sort of kicked off in 2018, and then Theresa May signed up to net zero in 2019, I suddenly realized that, oh, hang on, this this is really happening. This, you know, it's gaining traction. It's because it always seemed they've been kicking the can down the road a bit with climate. You know, like the next government, you know, will take care of it, but not us. That
Yeah.
kind of thing. Whereas in 18, 19, it looked like this was it. There was they'd drawn a line and they said we're going. You know, it's like, you know, the pilot, you know, putting on the full thrust on the runway, and I was running around thinking, what are we going to do? You know, what can I do? I mean, I was literally nobody. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know where to start. And I just thought if we had could give leaflets to everybody every week, you know, in every home in the country every week about just telling them that this is all, you know, crazy stuff, that might work. And I was just working out how I might do that. And then COVID came along.
Yeah.
And when COVID came along, you know, when we were locked down, I the way I looked at it was that they saw that net zero was getting traction and it was going to work. Basically, that's what. And so COVID was the final blow. It's like banging you on the head, knocking you on the
Yes.
ground, and hitting you. And then when they stop hitting you and you stand up, you'll just be happy to be in net zero. You know, because it
But I
won't
don't
be.
know that we are. I mean, maybe some people still believe that the planet is warming up to the point where it's going to be so disastrous in the next 12, or it's no longer 12 years, is it? Because she was been harping on about that sort of 3 or 4 years ago. So in the next 9 or 10 years, but they keep saying the same thing. So maybe some people still believe it, but not everybody. And nobody had a public consultation with us. You know, that's the thing that
Mm,
bugs me more than anything, is that the government might decide they want to do these things and say, look, we think it's a good idea, and make everybody have an electric car and get rid of natural gas and give you heat pumps and contain people in 15-minute cities, and we'd also like to surveil you as well and monitor everything you do. Okay, that's fine. It's a great idea, maybe, but
mm.
can we be consulted about that, actually? Could you just ask us first, so that not everybody might like that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's because when Oxford announced that they'd approved the 15-minute city, or, you know, well, the thing is they deny that. They say, oh, it's just traffic reduction,
Traffic
you know,
calming, yeah.
six zones. But in the first week, they had mentioned climate change and 15-minute cities. You know, the councillor himself, he was in charge of it. So, and then backtracked and never mentioned it again. But it was too late. That, you know,
The cat is out the bag.
yeah, basically. So um, when that was first announced, I decided we'd, we'd get the information out to the public with a leaflet, you know, which we did. And on the 8th of January, we leafleted. We had a leaflet for we had 55,000 leaflets printed, enough for every home in Oxford. Not we didn't get into every place because we couldn't get into blocks of flats and things, but we got the message out there, and it was the message was basically, so, like, before that, the narrative was that, you know, okay, people might complain, but it'll be about, you know, inconvenience and bad for local business. But we were getting the message out in our leaflet about that it's part of a bigger agenda, that you can track it exactly through, you know, Agenda 30, through the C40 cities straight to 15-minute cities. So it is part of a plan, and they can't deny that. And as I said, they mentioned 15-minute cities and climate change themselves. But in the year before that, the Oxford also had low traffic neighborhoods had been introduced, the LTNs, and the public were fighting those. And so there's a number of LTNs around Oxford, and local groups around each one were getting together to fight them, because they were already having an effect on people's lives and local businesses. But a sort of a group above them, sort of coordinating them a bit, is called Reconnecting Oxford. And so I got in touch with Reconnecting Oxford in December, and the main guy there said to me that people were flabbergasted. At first, they thought that the support for the support for protesting against LTNs was so big, like 80-90%, that they figured that if they just put their case together and then go to the council, it'll just be thrown out.
Hmm.
And it wasn't. And that really took most people aback. They couldn't believe it, that the local democracy was just completely thrown out the window. And that said a lot, that completely demoralized a lot of people. They thought, oh my God, democracy doesn't exist. You
Yeah.
know, it was a wake up call for a lot of people. And a lot of them started going down the rabbit hole, like researching everything, and finding out about Agenda 30 and WEF and stuff. and it just woke them up. And literally, Duncan Enright said, the councillor in charge of traffic in Oxfordshire Council, said that this is going to go through whatever happens, whether people like it or not.
Yeah.
And that literally is, and it's a perfect example of what's happening globally or nationally and globally, is that local representatives who are supposed to be voted in democratically by people to represent them
Have
are
no power.
ignoring, yeah, they're ignoring the people, and they're just rubber stamping policies that have come from above. The same people. If you track it, from 15-minute cities up, it just goes straight up to the top.
Yeah.
United Nations Agenda 30.
So sometimes fighting the branches of the tree is sort of almost a waste of time. That you really got to get to the root of the problem and get rid of the roots, because that's what's giving all these branches.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, we could go around firefighting all these things, 15-minute cities, vaccine injuries, vaccine passports, everything. But it all does come down to the root cause of that our representatives, in quotation marks, have betrayed us. Either they're stupid, corrupt, gullible, anything. I don't care what it is. And obviously some of them haven't, but the system, the majority of these people have voted against us, and it's just betrayal. And we really just need to get rid of them, and replace the system with something that can't be corrupted. So that's, everything sort of comes down to that, really.
So the main thing is to get people to start thinking and seeing it for what it is, as you've said, and to start building that awareness. And that's very much what notourfuture.org is about. Is that where we are?
Yeah. So
and things will develop in time.
Well, we want to regularly get the information out to the public, preferably by leaflets. So I've got lots of people coming to me the idea is that every council area would have a little team who'd be happy to sort of leaflet their local neighborhoods, every week, every 2 weeks, with different leaflets on all of these topics,
and get the conversation going.
Yeah, and because lots of people, like everybody, has a different thing that will flick their switch.
Yes.
I know for me personally, I was completely, I didn't care about anything except myself, until 2003, and I was just minding my own business. And then Tony Blair sent tanks to Heathrow Airport. Do you remember that? Just in the lead up to the Iraq War.
Yes.
They were trying to scare us. And I didn't care about anything. And then I just went, hang on, that sounds over the top, from what I've picked up from the news and whatever. And that just flipped the switch in me. And instantly I got into all that stuff. And I was into all the, anti-war stuff. And that led me on various things gradually. And so that was one thing that flipped me from nowhere. And then another one was just, I've studied environmental health. So I've studied like pollution and stuff in university, but I still didn't care about the environment, or pollution or climate change. And I just assumed climate change was whatever they were saying was happening. And nobody seemed too worried about it at the time, really. It hadn't ramped up too much. But in 2009, my friend just mentioned to me, and we weren't having an argument or a discussion. He just mentioned about ice core samples show that carbon dioxide tracked temperature, not the other way around. And whether it was right or wrong, I believe it's right, but some people say it's wrong. But whatever, it made me flip. I went from not having attention on the subject to suddenly having attention, and then I just decided, oh, that sounds quite plausible. And it might have been helped that about a week later, ClimateGate happened. The James Denny poll,
right?
Got behind a story on the emails from the guys, falsifying records and accounts and things, and that sort of maybe shored up what I just heard, and ever since then I've been completely on the side of this. So you can't predict
what's going to sort of switch people. So, well, it sounds good. I'm going to have to hasten it up because of time.
Yeah.
But people can find out more by going to notourfuture.org. I'll put the link in the description as well. You've got your pledge. You've got all information about it. You've got some pictures of the other people who are sort of supporting you, more well-known and trusted people and what have you. And it would be interesting to watch how it goes and see how people do start to sort of get on board and get these leaflets out and hopefully get people to see what the world is as it is and think about whether they really want that or not.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. That's it. Just attention. We're not asking people to do much. Just think about these things.
yeah,
And
brilliant.
don't throw away our leaflets straight away. Have a
No,
listen.
and if you don't want them, pass them to somebody else. That's the least you can do, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, listen, David, it's been fantastic to talk to you. Thank you for coming on. And we'll have to catch up in a few months' time to find out how it's all going and and if there's any other ways that we can help. But for the
Yeah.
moment, it's been brilliant to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Richard. It's been a pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.